Hedley Hodkinson from Tasmania.
And Hedley, how did you get into bees?
Well, I was over at my swimming pool, over the hill, a little hill, and down into a creek. Just have a little bit of a paddle. The swimming pool was no more than one push with your feet and one stroke and you were over them. But we used to have a lot of fun there. And one day when I was coming back from the swimming pool, I came across this swarm of bees, this nice swarm of bees, hanging off a prickly box. And I thought to myself, how can I get it home? How can I get it home? I didn't have enough sense to run home and get a box, put it in it, so I just wrapped my wet towel around it, tied the knots on it, so when I broke the branch off, they wouldn't all fall off onto the floor. So I broke it off, carried it home with the bees getting out of the cracks of the towel, and they were all following me along because I had the queen in there in the towel. And when I got home, my mother was screaming at me to put them down, and I'll sting you to death. Now I'm screaming back at her, you get me a box to put them in and I'll put them down. So she finally got me a box, put it on a concrete stand out the back, and I put them down on the stand and opened my towel off, and you should have seen them run into that box. And that was where I started my queen rearing, my beekeeping. It swarmed in the next season, and then I had two, and it carried on from there, from two to I had a workmate that used to come and help me with the bees, and I had about 16 hives, and he used to help me. So I thought, oh well, we'll go halves in it, you know, if you're going to come and help me work, we'll just go halves in it. So we sort of formed a partnership for about 10 years, but putting anything we made back into it, we virtually made no money for at least 10 years. And then the 67 bushfires come through and burnt 40 odd of them or so, and all the sheds and our honey supers and everything like that. So we ended up with about 30 hives each when we dissolved the partnership then, because unfortunately he was dying with a cancer, so it had to be shared up, and then of course everything was burnt excepting our house, and a few pullets, point-of-lay pullets, survived out in the paddock, and I needed shell grit, and I had to go out over onto an island, Bruny Island, to get shell grit, and of course that didn't get burnt down, and there was the trees hanging heavy with blue gum buds going to flower in the springtime. So with I intended then to take the bees to Bruny Island, which was 10 shillings then, or $1 over and $1 back with your vehicle. But I didn't have enough hives, I consider, because we had no honey supers. And I had to convince my wife that I could make money out of keeping bees. And there was an old gentleman that was selling out, and I persuaded my wife to let me ring up and see if he had any left. And he said, oh yes, I've got 16 left, boy. And I said, oh look Henry, I'd like to buy them off you, but there's only one problem. And he said, what's that? And I said, I haven't got any money. He thought for a while, and he said, oh look, I've known you I told him I'd pay for them by Easter. This was about November or earlier in the year. And he thought a while, and he said, oh yes, I've known you for a long while, that'll be okay. So I took not only those 16 but my 30 and there were only one brood box and one super, honey super, an ideal on top. And I used to have to go over and take the ideal super off, full of honey, stay up all night extracting it and take it back next day, because the bees had nowhere to go. They had to hang out for the night. So, and that's how we got started. And of course, not having any income after the fire because we had a poultry farm, I went working in the orchards, picking apples, and then going back and pruning, and working for myself, making beehives, boxes out of anything and everything I could find. Yep, and that's how we got going.
And where did that lead to? You got much bigger, did you?
Oh, much bigger. We had 500 hives. I built a honey house with an export license. We sent honey into England and Denmark, and packed and sold our honey to our shops in Hobart and individuals in all up the eastern seaboard of, yeah.
Hedley, what advice would you give to someone perhaps young like you were maybe thinking of managing bees and maybe making some money out of it?
Oh, well, you've got to be dedicated, because you put a lot of hours in for nothing much. You just don't work an 8-hour day. You've got to be dedicated to your job. And the most important thing is, and the whole industry evolves around them, and that's your queen bees. Your queen bees, and of course you've got to learn how to recognise when there's going to be a honey flow and look for it. Probably anything up to a year. We can tell our honey flows at home anything up to a year before, because most of our eucalypts down there carry their buds for 12 months. You have to have more knowledge than actually how to handle and manipulate your hives for a honey flow. You have to be able to find them as well.
And Hedley, how did you get your knowledge?
Oh, just experience. Nobody in Southern Tasmania knew anything about keeping bees, apart from they kept them in boxes and they collected their swarms, and the more swarms they got, the better they thought they were a beekeeper. But our beekeeping industry was on the northwest coast, and I went up to the northwest coast as a young fellow, around 18, 19, and of course the old fellas up there took me under their wing, invited me up for my holidays, and really showed me how to keep bees. Yes.
And what about the future of the beekeeping industry? How do you see it going?
Oh, I think it's got quite a good future, as long as hopefully we keep varroa out of the country. And of course a great deal of our income is going to come from pollination. I think it's an important part of our industry, and particularly in Tasmania we can see with a lot of irrigation there's going to be a shortage of bees for pollination.
Hedley, if you were studying bees again, would you do anything different?
Yes, I would. I would go in for plastic foundation. I prefer the wooden frames, but that's a matter of choice, but certainly plastic foundation.
Anything else you do differently?
Not that I can think of now. What I would have done differently, I made all of my material, and it was very, very slow getting going, where today I think if you're carefully enough and go slow, you can buy your equipment. But yes, it certainly, but during the time I was going slow, making all of my own equipment, I was learning as I went, and it was a great thing. If I'd have borrowed a lot of money and bought all the equipment very quickly, I think I would have gone broke because of inexperience.
How important was it for you to work with a partner, say with your wife or with your...
Look, my original partner wasn't a dedicated beekeeper. And my wife, once my wife and myself got it, we went forward. Unbelievably, we went forward because we worked so closely together, and my wife, of course, born in the middle of London, and thought if there was a bee anywhere you had to avoid it because it was going to sting her to death, and of course she came helping me one day and she got a sting on the arm and it all swelled up, and I said, oh, don't worry about that, when you get enough stings they won't swell anymore. But she thought to herself, now I'll never get that many stings. but she totally refused to learn how to rear the queen bees, because if she learned how to rear the queen bees, she'd get that job too, and there'd be nothing at all for me to do. But I collapsed right on the queen halfway through the queen rearing program, and from my bed in the hospital, which I was in the critical care. I had to explain to her how to get the nuclei out and the cells out of the hives, and do a part of the queen rearing, which was getting the cells out and putting them into nuclei after she got the nuclei out. And she had as much success as what I did.
And she continued to do it, or you're...
Oh no, she certainly doesn't. She certainly hasn't learned the graft, and I don't think she'll ever take that job on.
And do you think your knowledge is being passed on to other people, younger beekeepers, through your organisation perhaps?
Oh, through the organisation, yes, but a lot of people don't take notice of what I tell them. The important thing is don't keep too many that you can't work properly, because you always have too big a tail, which are non-producers, and yes, work hard.
Thanks, Hedley.